right. Hello there. Welcome to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. All right. I'm excited today to share with you my thoughts on a recent release from the Criterion Collection that came out earlier this month in July during the 50% off sale that is currently going on as of the time this video is being recorded at Barnes& and Noble. So 50% off Criterion Collection titles at Barnes & Noble through July 28th of 2024. So definitely an awesome time to pick up some great titles, including the title I'm going to talk about today, which is this one right here. This 4K of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. This is the 1973 Western from director Sam Peckinpah. Of course, Sam Peckinpah is no stranger to the Criterion Collection. This is spine number 1234. Yeah, I'm sorry, 1224. So 1224. And this is from director Sam Peckinpah, who is already in the collection with spine number 182 in this amazing film here. Amazing, hard to watch in certain parts, but amazing film starring Dustin Hoffman, called Straw Dogs. This came out in 1971. So a couple of years before Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. Sam Peckinpah's teamed up with Dustin Hoffman for Straw Dogs in a very visceral film that is an amazing film. So I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about this release, telling you what I think about this movie. I had a chance to watch this movie in a couple of different versions, tell you a little bit about the release, tell you what I think about the picture quality, the special features, and whether or not this is a title you ought to consider adding to your cart as part of this 50% off sale. So if you haven't had a chance to pick up Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, or if you just want to hear what I have to think about it, sit back and let's talk about, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid on 4K. And I really want to hear in the comments section what you think about this release and what you think about this film. So on the other side of this, let's get into it. This was my first time watching this 1973 film from Sam Peckinpah, and I'm a huge fan of Westerns, sort of going back to my childhood and just watching my mom. She loves watching those old Western films, a lot of black and white, films from classic Hollywood in that Western genre. So I share that same taste, and I love a good Western. Now, in this case, this is not in black and white. This is actually in color. It's from 1973, and it is really it's a really solid Western. I wouldn't put it up there as one of my favorites, but I really like it. And I like the performances from James Coburn, who played Pat Garrett in this film. He's the former outlaw, now lawman, who's been charged to bring in Billy the Kid, who in this film is being played by Kris Kristofferson. I think they both did a really nice job in the performances for each of their roles, really embodying each of these characters. And the other thing I really enjoyed about this film was, the inclusion of Bob Dylan as Alias. I really liked his character. He wasn't a huge part of the film, but he was definitely in it for quite a bit. And he was definitely a featured character. Even though he wasn't, a huge part of driving the narrative, his presence was definitely there, not only physically, but also in the music of this film. I mean, his soundtrack that he did for this movie, wow. Even without the film, I think the soundtrack is worth the price of admission alone. It is absolutely fantastic. So I think overall the story here, the story of, James Coburn as Pat Garrett, trying to bring down Billy the Kid and Billy the Kid's escapades, all leading to a pretty interesting conclusion, which I will not spoil here if you haven't seen the film. I think it was very well made and very well done. And to just go ahead and spoil things here, I'll just tell you the 4K looks really nice. So I was very pleased with this picture. Now, you do get 3 versions of this film, which is pretty amazing in this set. That's why the price point is a bit higher than typical 4K releases. This is one movie, but you're getting 3 cuts. But the SRP is like $70, but during the 50% off sale, you get it for $35. So that's why this is a good time to pick this one up. But basically, you get the original theatrical cut, which is on 4K with Dolby Vision. Looks Really, really nice. That's the one I watched in its entirety. You also get the 50th anniversary release on 4K. I have not had a chance to watch that one yet. The original theatrical release came in at 106 minutes. The 50th anniversary release comes in at 117. Now, it's important to note that the third cut of the film is the cut of the film that is closest to Sam Peckinpah's vision. Okay. And you do see some differences between this and the other versions, and that is the final preview cut. So I had a chance to look at a little bit of this. This is the 122 minute version of the film that most closely resembles Sam Peckinpah's vision for the film. So there are some differences there. I haven't seen the entirety of the final preview cut, but what I can tell you is that that particular cut is not on 4K. It's on standard Blu-ray, and the restoration work has not really been. They didn't do as much restoration on that as they did for the other cuts. I'll just put it that way. And you can definitely see in the picture quality, but it does give you a chance to see what was Sam Peckinpah's vision. It would have been nice for that version to get the same restoration treatment. Not really sure why that was the case, but at least all three of the versions are included. So let me take a moment to read the back of this case here. It says, Sam Peckinpah's cycle of genre redefining Westerns came to a close with this blood and dust caked elegy for the American West, which marries his renegade style with a fatalistic sense of finality. As newly minted lawman Pat Garrett, James Coburn stalks the outlaw Billy the Kid, Kris Kristofferson, across the plains. Their old friendship is twisted into rivalry, and mythic ideals of freedom come up against an emerging ruling class order, all to the strains of a haunting soundtrack by Bob Dylan. The soundtrack is awesome, folks. I mean, I'm not the world's biggest Bob Dylan fan, but I will tell you that I like everything that I've heard from him, and this soundtrack is amazing for this film. I mean, Bob Dylan is just one of the all-time greats. He also appears as the mercurial alias in this film, of course. Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, presented here for the first time in three separate versions, stands as perhaps the maverick auteur's richest, most mature work, a world-weary ballad that bears the solemn weight of history passing into legend. So absolutely wonderful, wonderful film. I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, this is the kind of movie that, again, like I said, I love Westerns. And the more that I watch this film, folks, I think this is going to grow on me even more. So those are the special features if you want to kind of freeze and take a look at that. Really nice set of special features. It's not incredibly loaded, but it is a nice set of special features. So let me show a little bit here about this film and this director. Of course, you see here the original theatrical poster here, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, starring James Coburn and Kris Kristofferson and Bob Dylan. Those three. Really enjoyed all three of the characters here. They are really what drives this narrative. Principally, James Coburn and Kris Kristofferson drive the narrative. Bob Dylan adds a lot of character as the character alias, but then brings that beautiful soundtrack that really sets the atmosphere of this film, in addition to the visuals, which are pretty awesome, especially in 4K. You have director Sam Peckinpah with Dustin Hoffman here. Of course, Dustin Hoffman. I'm not sure if this looks like this could be a still from the production of this film here, Straw Dogs. It might very well be. But this film here, folks, I highly recommend this film here. This is Susan George here, who, of course, played Dustin Hoffman's wife in this film. You know, Dustin Hoffman is playing an American living in England with his wife, and they're running into some issues with some of the locals in their time in England. I'll just leave it at that. It's a really amazing film. That there are some parts of it that are a bit tough to watch. Some parts that have some violence that may be difficult to watch, but other than that, the film is absolutely extraordinary. So this is the two of them together, Hoffman and Peckinpah. Of course, you have James Coburn as Pat Garrett, Kris Kristofferson as Billy the Kid, and Bob Dylan as Alias. You know, James Coburn, he's the lawman who is, bringing down his old friend Billy the Kid. His performance, him being James Coburn, is really stoic and layered. You really get to appreciate James Coburn in this film. And of course, he's appeared in a number of other films like The Magnificent Seven and some other incredible films that are just great to see his performance in those movies. And, it really captures his performance captured that internal conflict between, okay, this is my friend, Billy the Kid, but I now have the responsibility of being sheriff of this county. I got to bring him in. And so that creates some conflict between duty and friendship. And then, of course, Kris Kristofferson, he was playing Billy the Kid, and I was really impressed with his performance. He really brought a nice youthful charm to that character. Of course, we don't really know fully what Billy the Kid was like in real life. This is based on a real story. Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid were real historical figures in the 1800s, and so this film here is putting a film narrative behind around that story. So there's a lot of fiction there, but it's based upon a real story of Pat Garrett bringing in and bringing down Billy the Kid. So he does a nice job of bringing that youthful and rebellious spirit to Billy the Kid's character. So I really appreciate Kris Kristofferson's performance. And then Bob Dylan, he was in more of a supportive role playing Alias. He really contributed to the unique atmosphere of this film, not only in his performance in the film, but also providing that amazing soundtrack with songs that just perfectly complement Sam Peckinpah's cinematic vision, and really just sets the mood for the story, and it helps you to get enveloped in the story and feel like you're in that world. So Bob Dylan is the man. So overall, I really enjoyed this film. I enjoyed the performances. I enjoyed, what Coburn, Kristofferson, and Bob Dylan, as well as all of the supporting characters, what they brought to this picture, just the production style of this film, top notch all the way around. And seeing it in 4K Ultra HD, folks, is an absolute treat, which is a nice segue to how does this film look on 4K Ultra HD? Well, it looks absolutely amazing. I mean, I'll just say, I mean, it's a gorgeous, 4K picture in this attractive set. I mean, I love westerns and I love the landscapes. I love the architecture, and just the design of the buildings, the exteriors, the interiors, really being in that western world and feeling like you're in a western environment. And seeing this film on 4K is an absolute treat. I mean, there are some scenes that are softer than others, for sure. But then there are some scenes you look at and you're absolutely floored by how crisp and clear and beautifully organic it looks. It looks almost brand new. Now, then there are some other scenes, like I said, that are sort of muddier looking, but overall, you're getting a really strong picture with this 4K, picture in terms of detail, nice, beautiful contrast and dynamic range with that HDR, really bringing out the colors. It's just a clean, beautifully clean image with a nice layer of grain that is resolved beautifully, and it just looks absolutely extraordinary. Now, that's the 4K picture on the original theatrical release, and I'll tell you that you really appreciate that 4K picture and how beautiful it looks. I have really no complaints about it, other than, of course, you have some of those scenes where there's some softer spots, but that could just be based upon the source materials, maybe just limitations in the materials that they were working with. Maybe they were working with a portion of the film where they just had the best element they had available wasn't the best quality, perhaps. I don't know. But there were some scenes that were softer than others. It could also just be a result of the way they were shooting a particular scene. Don't know for sure. But for the most part, for most of the runtime of this film in the original theatrical version, looks amazing on 4K Ultra HD for this 1973 film. Now, you really can appreciate those 4K visuals all the more when you pop in the Blu-ray of the final preview cut and you see that final preview cut, which is Sam Peckinpah's vision for the film, his closest to his vision for the film. I really wish it had gotten the same restoration treatment, because you really can really appreciate how good the 4K of the original theatrical cut looks relative to the Blu-ray, and it's like night and day. It is literally night and day. What you're getting with that final preview cut on the Blu-ray is you're seeing Sam Peckinpah's final vision. The picture quality is not particularly great, but you're at least seeing Sam Peckinpah's version of the film that was closest to what he envisioned. So overall, from a picture quality standpoint, I have no complaints. You do get uncompressed monaural soundtrack, and the sound wasn't incredibly amazing, but it sounded perfectly fine based upon the dialogue and the things going on in the soundscape. So I have no complaints on the audio. So overall, from a 4K picture standpoint, for the original theatrical release, I think it looks absolutely phenomenal. I think the sound is solid. Now, I have not seen the 50th anniversary release, so I need to check that out. But based upon the original theatrical, looks amazing, sounds just fine. As far as the special features, let me open up what we have in here, and I will get out of this here real quickly. This is a review from Vincent Canby of the New York Times Review. In the Albuquerque Tribune from May 31, 1973. So just showing a little bit of the news during that time when this film came out, a critical review. You see a picture here of the historical Billy the Kid from the 1800s. And of course, Kris Kristofferson is bringing him to life on screen in this film. So, and I think he did a really good job. But you see here in this set, look at that. Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. James Coburn here. Kris Kristofferson here. This is Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid. Amazing stuff. On the inside, you have the 4 discs. Of course, let's see here. You have the 4Ks right here with the original theatrical release and the 50th anniversary. And then over here you have the 50th anniversary release and original theatrical release on Blu-ray and the final preview cut on Blu-ray. So you have the Blu-rays here, the 4Ks over here. So very nice. You have this insert here, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. You have Renegade's Requiem, an essay by Steve Erickson in here, and information about the release. I will read about the masters. So it says for the 50th anniversary release, supervised and approved by editor and author Paul Sador, and Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, co-editor and colorist Roger Spottiswoode, the new 4K master was created from the 35mm original camera negative and the 35mm color reversal intermediate. So it was remastered from the 2-inch DME magnetic track for the audio. The original theatrical release was created from the 35mm original camera negative as well. The final preview cut is the last version of the film on which Peckinpah worked directly, and this new 2K master was created from a 35mm print from the collection of the Academy Film Archive. So just giving you an idea of the way the different cuts were treated. Overall, great picture quality on that original theatrical release of the film. So that's the one that if you're just looking for visually the best looking, that is going to be the best looking, and probably the 50th anniversary release, which is also looks to have the same level of restoration work to it. Now, as far as special features, I was very, very happy with the special features. You get the audio commentary, on here that features Sador, Spottiswoode, and critic Michael Shragao. You do get the Dylan and Durango, which is the interview with author Clinton Halen about the film's soundtrack. So that talks about the wonderful soundtrack that Bob Dylan put together, which is just fantastic. You have Passion and Poetry, Peckinpah's Last Western, which is a new program about the making of the film. Archival interview with actor James Coburn, which is really cool to see. Of course, James Coburn is no longer with us. You get the trailer and TV spots, which is always cool to look at, but you don't get a ton of special features on this set, but I think you get enough in here to get an appreciation for how this film came together, how the soundtrack was put together, the production of this film. And of course, hearing from James Coburn and also from Kris Kristofferson in some of those archival interviews is very, very nice. So overall, this is a really nice set from the Criterion collection of a great Western from Sam Peckinpah, and it definitely has my recommendation. This is Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid on 4K Ultra HD from the same director who gave us Straw Dogs in the collection. So yeah, so there you have it. Those are my thoughts on this 4K release in the Criterion Collection. Highly, highly recommended. Would definitely recommend picking this title up if you're a fan of westerns, if you like Sam Peckinpah, if you like James Coburn, Kris Kristofferson, if you like a nice western that has a nice killer soundtrack to accompany it, and also a nice western atmosphere. Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid should definitely be up your alley, so it comes highly recommended. Let me know in the comments section below, what do you think about this film? Let me know what you think about Sam Peckinpah films, and what are some of your favorite films from Sam Peckinpah? And also let me know, what are some of your favorite tunes from musician Bob Dylan? Let me know all that in the comment section below, and as always, thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time at the movies. Peace.